This podcast is brought to you by Free Buddhist Audio, the Dharma for your life. Our work is funded entirely by donations from our generous listeners. If you would like to help us keep this free, make a contribution at freebuddhistaudio.com/donate. Thank you, and happy listening.
So, the talk tonight that I'm going to share with you, Living What We Love, a response to the four sights. I was going to call it How to Be Sick. I had a spiritual friend in the order had a few words with me that it might not be the most attractive talk, so it's title. So, Living What We Love. Dhamma kamo bhavana hoti. Dhamma kamo bhavana hoti. He or those who love the Dharma, they are the ones who grow. Those who love the Dharma, those are the ones who grow. So, living what we love, living the Dharma, loving the Dharma, and all that we've got in common. I'm imagining that's part of the reason that you're here tonight, listening to this talk or listening to it at home. So what does it mean to live the Dharma, to love the Dharma? We're going to have a look at that. And the words Dhamma kamo means love, but it means a passionate love. It means that we passionately love the Dhamma. And to love something, we want to spend time with it, to talk about it, to listen to it, to share it with our friends, to practice it. So Sangharakshita talks a little bit about this, loving the Dharma, and he describes it like for us to imagine if there's anybody that you're not quite falling in love with, but you're attracted to somebody, and you see them maybe on the metro and you think, oh, it's the time, I could arrange to have the same tram tomorrow as well, and you sort of try to find your ways of being around that person somehow. You might bump into them again by the smiles. I imagine you might have had some experience of that. Yeah, he says you might even arrange things so that you're travelling that way again on the same time the next day. Yeah, so the talk's quite practical ways to how to practice the Dharma if you're sick or dying, which we all are, or in old age, or birth, actually, people who are born, babies. As Manisha mentioned, I'm working in healthcare, and there are babies who don't make it. I'm sure you may have some awareness of that situation. So Sangharakshita again, he says, if you love the Dharma, you will progress. And one should think of getting involved in Buddhism more in terms of falling in love in the most highly positive way possible. So let's talk about love. Falling in love. And if you love the Dharma, here's some ways that we'll look at tonight to live the Dharma. There'll be principles and practices and some stories from the Pali Canon. Well, the How to Be Sick, one of the stories is a sutta, and you may know the sutta. I'll tell you shortly. You may know the sutta, and the most common part of it I knew as well, but I didn't know the second part of it, which is actually instructions how to be sick, how to be a good patient, or how to be a nurse if one of your friends is sick. And that was sort of the inspiration for the talk. So birth, old age, sickness and death, and what it means to develop a spiritual practice. And Manisha mentioned the Sanghavastus, which I will say something about, and the other set of practices that really can help us to meet these for living and dying, being alive and dying, are the Brahma Viharas. And I'll say a little bit about what they are as we go. Well, Metta, Karuna, Mudita and Upekkha, some of you know, and I'll explain a little bit about them. In fact, I might even have the description up while I speak. What I'm going to talk about tonight, skillful means to practice the Bodhisattva path. Yeah? And it may create conditions for the arising of the Bodhicitta by using the Brahma Viharas and the Sanghavastus. So, the human body, at peace with itself, is more precious than the rarest gem. The human form is one with difficulty. It is easy to lose. Cherish your body. It is yours this one time only. Therefore, set your goal. Make use of each day and night to achieve it. Yeah. So that's by Tsongkhapa. And we often, in this Triratna movement, we sometimes have a puja, or we use these verses at the start of the day before our meditation this poem, or the 4 reminders. Life is precious, and having a human body is rare. The second one is everything's impermanent and death is certain. The third, karma, the fact of karma, and we can abandon unskillfulnesses. And 4, the defects of samsara, so there is greed, hatred and delusion. And we have the opportunity to transform ourselves, to become free, if we practice now. So, I've said that it's important that we live what we love, that we know what we love. If we love the Dharma, create the conditions to practice that. And we can use these skillful means, the Brahmaviharas and the Sangravastus, generosity, kindly speech, beneficial activity and exemplification, to model or to be how we are in the world as Dharma practitioners. Your job is to listen during this talk. Your job is to listen, and if I'm telling stories, you can see if you can spot any one of these Brahmaviharas or Sangravastus in the story. And if you don't hear it mentioned in the story, you can bring yourself in and actually see what you could do in the situation. So listen out for when you might practice them. Yeah. So we've all been born. We all have a body, a human body, and we can acknowledge the gratitude for that. So I'm going to just start with a little bit of self-connection for myself, and for my own benefit, and for your benefit in being receptive and listening to me. And it's a bit of a little meditation that I heard by someone who teaches the compassionate mind training, Paul Gilbert. And for me, it's a little bit like the Metta Sutta, which I'm sure you know. This must be done by one who kens his good. So I'm going to invite you to, if you like, to close your eyes. If you're listening to this on a podcast in your car, keep driving. But while you're here, or you're in a position to do it, just close your eyes. And like in the Metta Sutta, where we hear that just as a mother watches o'er her child, her only child, so long as she doth breathe, so let a man practice unto all that lives an all-embracing mind. So just like in the Metta Sutta, a mother watching o'er her child, we can be present, listen to the sounds, outside the room, inside the room, in each other, in our own body. Allowing sounds to come and go. And if we can imagine, with our eyes closed, looking down on us sitting here, standing here, sitting here, looking down on your own body and your posture as you sit there, seeing your chest rise and fall with the breath, looking with soft eyes as if the eyes of a mother watching her newborn baby's chest rise and fall with each tender breath. Allow that quality of tenderness in our own hearts, gratitude for each breath. That breath you just took, that's a gift. So if you want to open your eyes, being as you are, thank you. So some of you know that we're talking about old age, sickness, death, dying. That I've had, and Manisha mentioned, I've been a hospital patient for some of my 44 years. And I just learned actually this week that it's 20 years ago that I had a brain hemorrhage. There's a kind of 50-50 touch and go chance of living or dying, and I chose to have an operation that was the risk, and here I am 20 years later, very grateful. And in the last almost 3 years, just 2.5 years, nearly coming on 3 years, I had a kidney. My kidney's out. It'll be the end of next month. It'll be 3 years. Then I was on dialysis for a while, and I had a transplant via live kidney donation. Someone from the Sangha So another Buddhist had given me one of her kidneys. So I feel a lot of gratitude to life and still being alive. So that again, Katanyata, the quality of gratitude for gifts received. So life doesn't always begin at birth. We get other chances at life. There's opportunities to live each day, each moment. And I want to share with you, this is a book that was given by a kidney foundation or an organ donation foundation called Thank You for Life. And I'm not going to give you a letter that I wrote to my kidney donor, but this is somebody else's letter, just to let you know what it's like to be close to dying and then have another chance. Dear family, on January the 19th, 2008, I received a liver from your loved one. I might cry. You might cry. It's okay. I've been meaning to write this letter from the moment I was called for my operation, knowing then that I may not even be the most suitable recipient for that liver. But as it happened, I was. I suppose this letter may be difficult to read. It's been difficult to write. It's both painful and joyous. The reason I'm writing is to thank you. Thank you is an expression which is used quite often and sometimes just in passing. This is not that kind of thank you. It's a different thank you, one that defies English or, for that matter, any language on earth. But how does one say thank you to someone who, because of you and your loved one's generosity, I am alive today and continue living? This is not simply a gift of an organ, it's a gift of life. I don't know how one can truly express one's feelings in words for giving someone a life. I can, however, but try. I must try, because I think you should know that this life that was saved is a life of promise. Words are not adequate, but that's all I can use to attempt to express my gratitude to you and your loved one, part of whom gave me life. How do I share with you that you have given me back my life? In fact, what you gave me is a better life. My wife and family also thank you. I think you should know that not one day goes by that I do not think of the generous spirit of yours and the man who enabled me to be healthy again. I had mixed emotions during that ride to hospital, not because I was scared or happy, but because I knew on that day, somewhere, a family lost a precious beloved person in their life. My heart is with you, and is still with you. Your loved one is with me, literally, with every breath I take. I promise to honour you both with everything I do, especially for others who have suffered, like me. If you have any special requests at all, just let me know. With all my heart, I wish you peace. I wish you love. Thank you. So life, birth, life. So this person writing this, or any of us, can feel that we're touching it now, that gratitude for life, our own and others. Yeah, and Howard Thurman talked about giving life, give your aliveness. So part of me, I'm going to read this, but part of me, I'm just going to be alive with you. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I need that. Russell. So Howard Thurman says, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes people come alive and go and do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. So ask yourself, what makes you come alive? What makes you come alive? Are you doing it? Are you in touch with it? If it's the Dharma, hearing, sharing, loving the Dharma, make sure you create the conditions for yourself to practice it. So for me, creating the conditions, living in community, coming to the centre, training as a chaplain, and I can go and sit with people who don't know if they're going to live or die. Yeah, being with spiritual friends. Yeah, making cups of tea, being made cups of tea as well. Yeah. Yeah, and loving it, pain, joy and sorrow woven fine. Yeah. Connecting with our practice, connecting with my practice, but finding the balance between self and other. We can't just go all out for people if we're not first caring for ourselves. And I remember hearing a film called City of Joy. In the film City of Joy, a woman, Pauline Collins, and it stuck with me for years. And she said, she played Joan in the City of Joy. She said, "I'm not very good at loving just one person. It seems so much better when you spread it around." And I went, yeah, someone else thinks like that. So I felt, that's been part of my life. And it's a balance. My practice is to balance all stages of metta and compassion practicing it for myself so that practicing it with others can be stronger. I need to be willing to go there in myself if I want to be present with others. So, in terms of the life of the Buddha, Siddhartha, when he left the palace as a young boy and he saw old age, sickness and death, and he was shocked with the fact of suffering and he wanted to find a way to the end of it. And then he saw the holy man who radiated calmness, and it suggested to Siddhartha that he had somehow come to terms with the fact of suffering. So he set his goal, and he used every day and night to achieve it. Yeah. So have we done that? Do we do that? In the light of knowing about old age, sickness and death, what's our goals? So the first of the 4 sites that he saw, old age, I looked to the suttas and what do the Pali scriptures say about old age, and there's a sutta called the Jara Sutta, and I'm just going to take a drink of water. I've got water in the shrine. Yeah. So in the Jara Sutta, the householder went to the Buddha and he said, "Look, I'm an old man. I don't often get a chance to see you. I think I'm going to die soon. Will you give me some teaching that will help me? Just instruct me for long-term happiness." Yeah, and the Buddha thought for a moment, and he looked at Nakulapita and he said, "So it is, householder. The body is afflicted, weak and encumbered. So should you train yourself." And what he says is, "Even though I may be afflicted in body, my mind will be unafflicted. Even though I may be afflicted in body, my mind will be unafflicted. That is how you should train yourself." So, how do we do that? How do we help our mind become afflicted? And Sariputra was around at the time, and he said that someone who's well versed in Dhamma and has regard for men of integrity doesn't fall into sorrow, distress, lament in the face of death. So someone who's well versed in Dhamma and has regard for integrity. Yeah. So we can practice the Dhamma now, have regard, and see illness as an opportunity and old age as an opportunity to practice for being with adversity, and practice shanti, which is tolerance in the face of suffering, or being injured or sick. So it's not about why me, why is this happening to me, it's actually about what can I do about this, how can I respond to this, how do I meet this, how can it be a practice for me. Yeah, and that's very much that's personal as well, actually. What are the ways that we best respond to this situation? Not about denying what's happening, actually saying, okay, this is happening, acknowledging it, being with it, and watching it change, actually. I have quite a strong image for what I was doing when I was having kidney failure. I'd get some news, something would be going on, I'd be having my usual hospital checks, And if I had news, I'd come home, I've got a big comfy chair, and I'd just lie in that chair. I'd let it embrace me, sink into the chair, have a good cry, and grieve, grieve some function, loss of function, or not being able to come to the centre or commit to doing things with people, And there was some sadness, so I allowed that sadness and honoured it, like Rumi's guest house. Greet it at the door, welcome it in. I really could honour it, and once I gave it that honour, I was able to live with that, and allow joy. Actually, I was really honouring myself and the truth of my experience. Yeah. So Rilke, in Letters to a Young Poet, he says, "What is required of us is that we love the difficult and learn to deal with it." Love the difficult and learn to deal with it. In the difficult are the friendly forces, the hands that work on us. And then he goes on later in another part of the letter to say, and the point is to live everything. And that's been coming when I've been writing the talk, live everything. Amity Shuri, live everything. Yeah. So, old age. Yeah, that will appear. Old age and sickness and dying. There's a lot of the teachings are applicable throughout all of it. Spiritual practice is applicable to all suffering. So as I said, one of the reasons for this talk was a sutta that I read, where Sangharakshita tells a story about a monk with dysentery. It's called in his writings A Case of Dysentery. And he says, the passage begins rather dramatically. Now at that time, a certain brother was suffering from dysentery and lay where he had fallen down in his own excrements. And he said, now that's quite a dramatic picture. There's this monk, this brother, a bhikkhu. We don't know if he's old or young, but because he's not well, he's lying in his own excrement and the monks haven't tended to him. So I'm not going to say much about that part of the story because that's available on Free Buddhist Audio. But he did say, I have dysentery, Lord. And the Buddha said, is there anyone there taking care of you, brother? No, Lord. Why is it, brother, that the brethren do not take care of you? I am useless to the brethren, Lord. Therefore the brethren do not care for me. So this is a story about the Buddha going round the viharas, checking how people are, how the monks are they getting on well. And he sees this. He doesn't judge, he just asks, what's the story here? And then he says, Ananda, go and get some water and we'll clean up the brother. So he does, and he gets on with it. And then he goes to talk to the monks about it, and he asks them, and they said, well, he's sick, he's not any use to us. And the Buddha talks about the skill. Is the skillful? Actually to treat a person as a thing is to treat them unethically. He's not any use to us. To treat a person as a thing is to treat them unethically. And that's how apparently the monks were treating the sick monk. He wasn't any use to them. So in the spiritual community, it's more than just use. Yeah, even if we've people have got talents and we know them for their talents, we need to see them for more than that. There must be kindness between us, spiritual friendship, as there was between the Buddha and Ananda. And Sangharakshita talks about it in terms of two principal aspects of treating other persons as persons. These are communication and taking delight. These two are the essence of friendship. Communication and taking delight. And the Buddha says, if you will not take care of one another, who else, I ask, will do so? If order members do not love one another, who else will love them? If order members do not inspire one another, who else will inspire them? If order members cannot be happy with one another, who else can they be happy with? If they can't come together with one another, who else can they come together with? Perhaps we should enjoy one another's company more, appreciate one another more, value one another more. And again, we come back to the Sangraha Vastus, the means of unification. Inspiration is exemplification and beneficial activity. May we spark one another off by our practice. May we speak kindly, which could also be appreciative joy, which could be mudita. It's celebrating the rejoicing in our friends' merits, and all being an act of metta, of kindness, or giving time to our friendships. So, in old age and in sickness, in this case, the case of dysentery, there are actually 5 qualities for a person who's sick that's hard to tend to. So this is actually the sort of core of what inspired me to give the talk on this, how to be sick, or living what we love, a response to the 4 sights. So a sick person endowed with 5 qualities is hard to tend to. Okay, now I want you to think about what you're like when you're sick, or what your friends like when they're sick. How are you with them? We've got someone who's not very well in our community, coughing here. Yeah, well, maybe that's not a good link to what I'm about to say, but oops. So a sick person endowed with 5 qualities is hard to tend to. Someone who doesn't know, 1, what's good for him. 2, I'm going to tell the opposite as well in a minute. Someone who doesn't know how much or how little of it is good for him or her. He doesn't take his medicine. 3. 4, he doesn't tell his symptoms as they arise, whether they're better, worse, or the same. And 5, he can't endure bodily feelings, pain, a fierce pain, racking, repellent, disagreeable, or life-threatening. So that's someone who's hard to attend to. And the opposite of true is true. So for one who's easy to attend to, he does know what's good for him. He knows how much or how little of it. He does take his medicine, does tell his symptoms as they arise, and can endure anything from painful to life-threatening bodily feelings. So, do you recognise any of them when you're ill? You don't tell your symptoms as they are. Oh, I'm fine. Oh, I'm fine. Oh. No, I'm just going to... And I recognise it in myself, you know. My friends would ask me, Amity Shuri, are you sure that really you should be going dancing or whatever I was going to do, going away for the weekend? Is that a good idea? I'm saying, yeah, I'm really well. When actually, what helped me was taking responsibility. You know, who was there to pick up the pieces if I overdid it and I got ill? You know, what is that? Is that an act of kindness towards my friends? No. So really, do look at ourselves. What are you like when you're sick? Are you taking responsibility for yourself and the effect that it has on others? And watch guilt getting in as well, because I didn't want that I was feeling guilty about going away for going dancing or whatever. It needs to be authentic, you know, to really take care of yourself, check in with yourself. Is this good for me? How much? How little? Yeah. So, and the fact of nursing, well, not nursing, but being a nurse or being a good friend to somebody who's not well, or taking care of your friend, in this sutta, the Kucchavikara Vatu, the sutta about the case of dysentery, a nurse who's not good at mixing medicine, someone who doesn't know what's good or not good for the patient, i.e. they bring things that are not good for them and they take away things that are. Or 3, is motivated by his own gain, whatever that might look like, getting away from work early, or quantity rather than quality, rather than genuine goodwill. You know, are we motivated by genuine goodwill when we're caring for a friend? 4, gets disgusted at cleaning up excrement, urine, saliva or vomit. Well, and 5, isn't competent at instructing, rousing or encouraging the patient on a proper occasion with a talk on Dhamma. Really? No, I know you laugh. And actually, what is important when somebody's not well? Do we sympathise? Do we collude? What are we doing? Or do we say, okay, what's actually going on here? You know, being present with them and paying attention. And that, you know, that gives the opportunity to actually practice these. It could be, maybe not a talk or a discourse in Dhamma, but practicing the Dhamma, being with our own experience, to be present to whatever darknesses are things are going on for our friend. So a nurse that is capable is fit to attend the sick, can mix medicine, does know what's good for the patient, is motivated by goodwill, can clean up, and is competent at encouraging the patient with the Dharma. So, yeah, how are you when you're sick? And it is an inevitability of life. And the sutta suggests in trying out these methods, also it says try out methods you wouldn't normally, chant mantras, or I know homeopathy gets a lot of stick, but actually, or herbal medicine or massage or whatever it is that you decide to try. In the Dharma it does say try it out. If it doesn't work, then if it works, it works. If it doesn't, karma's working anyway. Accept it. It says that in different words, but like that. Are you easy to attend to? Are you an easy patient to attend to? Are you receptive? Do you know what's good for you? Do you take the medicine? So in the Nakulapita Sutta, when he talked about the mind is afflicted, the mind is unafflicted. The body may be weak, but may that your mind will be unafflicted. And I'd add also practice the Brahmaviharas, even if you're lying there. Just practice the Brahmaviharas. Have compassion for your situation. Or you're sitting with a friend, be present. Look for joy that you're actually just sitting there, even if it's in silence. And again, that's when I've been ill and people have come and visited me. It's been the most beautiful when someone will just sit and meditate with me. Actually, it's been so supportive, someone to sit and meditate with me. And it's a gift if a patient in hospital allows me to do that. Or to chant. Yeah, or just be with them. Just be with them. Yeah, so I'm meeting, even during my illness, I did meet people who were sick. I actually heard someone in a bed opposite me die, just as her daughter went to the canteen. Her daughter had been sitting vigil for hours, and just when she left, the breathing had been changing, and then the patient died. Maybe she waited till she'd gone. I don't know, but actually, or being there when the doctors are discussing, do they turn off the life support machine for a baby? So it's happening all the time. So practicing these Brahmaviharas in whatever situation. I'm working on meeting people that I don't know. We've got our third stage of the metta, the neutral people, everyone that we don't know are neutral people. And I do see my job, my role, not just as a chaplain, as a friend to many, to bring the third stage to be second stage, to be a friend. And after it doesn't even, after a few minutes, sometimes that connection with a patient or someone can be really beautiful. Just that connection. Feel like a good friend. And the word chaplaincy is not necessarily a Buddhist word, but we translate it in my training. It was called Kalyana Mitra Network, spiritual friendship. So that's how I understand what I do as a spiritual friend. Yeah, and there's Hafiz. I've not written this poem down, but it's when you are lonely or in darkness, I wish I could show you the astonishing light of your own being. Really? I wish that for all of you, all of us. May we see that, I don't know if it's astonishing, but may we see that boundless light of our own being. And to meet each other with that intention, that in our hearts, how amazing. So there's 3 types of patients in Anguttara Nikaya. There's a patient who doesn't recover, whether or not they get medical attention. They don't recover. There's a patient who will recover, whether or not they get medical attention. And there's a third type of patient who recovers only when they get the correct medical care and attention. So that's why the Buddha suggested that because of that third type of patient, everyone who's ill gets the best medical treatment, food, water and nursing care. Unfortunately for the NHS at the moment, that is possible. So we've talked about old age, We've talked about sickness and how to be a friend to ourselves and to others if they're sick or dying. And Anathapindika was dying, and he went to the Buddha, and Sariputra visited Anathapindika, who you may have heard of, and he told Sariputra that his pains were excruciating and increasing, and Sariputra delivered a discourse reminding Anathapindika of his own virtues. Sariputra explained that the uninstructed worldling who has no faith in the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, and who has not cultivated virtuous moral habits, goes into a state of woe on the destruction of the body. But Anathapindika has unshakable conviction in the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, and has cultivated noble moral habits. Sariputra told him, when these noble qualities are mindfully appreciated, the pains would subside. Okay, now this is really important. This is the exalting someone in the Dharma. When we remember the noble qualities that we have cultivated, when we remember that we're practicing the precepts, that we're following the Eightfold Path, that we practice the Brahma Viharas, that we're bringing together people on the basis of friendship, practicing the Dharma, then that lifts our state. That can lift our state. And there's a lot of stories in the Pali Canon about people's states being changed when we're reminded of our virtues and of our conviction in the three jewels. Yeah. And Bhante calls that communication and taking delight. Celebrate communication, taking delight. Yeah. So Anathapindika's an easy attend to patient. He does what's good for him. He does tell his symptoms, and he does bear excruciating pain. And Sariputra had all the qualities of a good nurse, a good friend, dana, mudita, and equanimity, and he communicates and takes delight. So the Buddha suggests that we practice now while we can, really, and even while we're ill, not let illness stop us from practicing, because we might get worse. And it might be even harder, so that the chances of gaining higher spiritual attainments diminish. So, if we are ill or dying, practice the Brahma Viharas. If another is, practice the Brahma Viharas, and remind them of their virtues and their conduct. And we've heard. Well, I was thinking about this other story about a monk that got bitten by a snake when he was listening to the Buddha, and he just sat with it, and the poison started going around his body, and he was starting to feel pain of the venom toxifying him. And then he was reminded of, since he was ordained, of how ethical he was. He found that resource in himself to think, well, since my ordination I've really been really clearly ethical, and he started to feel the satisfaction and joy for his own conduct. And it had an effect. It chemically changed something in his body, and it acted as an anti-venom, and he got cured. Yeah, and it reminded me of these articles or news stories I'm hearing at the moment of brain neuroplasticity. How when we meditate, we actually change the chemistry in the brain. So here's teachings in the Pali Canon that talk about us doing that, changing the chemistry in the body to bring about healing. Yeah. So the Dhamma, it doesn't tell the patient or the practitioner us the meaning of sickness, but it does or tell us what we need to do. But it does present a path of action in sickness and death. So there's a story of the two arrows, the king and the two arrows. Or the one arrow when he gets shot, and he doesn't. The king, he doesn't say, "Okay, what's the teaching?" He said, "No, don't take it out yet. I need to know what caste the archer came from, what type of feathers were used, and who made the bow." And the medic says, "If we're going to answer those questions, you're just going to die." So just And death now. We look at what happens in death, and Hafiz again, the Sufi poet, he says the subject tonight is love, and for tomorrow night as well. As a matter of fact, I know no better topic for us to discuss until we die. So the stories about death in the Pali Canon. Well, one of our key ones that we all probably know is the story of Kissa Gotami. Yeah. And the skillful means that the Buddha used to help her see that death happens to everybody. It will happen to us. Happen to us all. And it matters the state of mind we're in when we die. We can do something about that now. We're doing it. We're here. We're doing it. And at this point, I want to say that when I was preparing my talk, I thought, death, I'll read, and what can I say about death? Some of you might have come to the workshop that Siddhi Sambhava did here. There's so much Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, Tibetan Book of the Dead, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's materials. So much could be said about death. And I'm alive. And today I thought I'll just do a reading. It'll be okay. And it's not like that. It's not like that. I'm sure you know our friend Izzy, who's not here tonight, and she's with her family. And in the last few days, since Tuesday actually, her dad got moved into a hospice. Keith, his name is, and her mum's called Pat. And since Friday, he's been gradually getting worse. And last night and this morning, and when I spoke to her this afternoon, he's maybe breathing his last breaths. So being with a friend, it's such a gift for me actually to be able to walk with my friend as her father dies and what she does. How does she wants to know what she can do, how she can practice. And I don't have the greatest wisdom on that. But I'm practicing, and I can be authentic and respond with my heart, practicing the Brahma Viharas, and that has an effect. It has an effect on Izzy, and Izzy practicing it has an effect on her family, on her dad, and hopefully his state when he dies. Yeah. Yeah. So I just wanted to mention then, and to bear them in mind. Yeah. I mean, even now we don't know how many breaths he has left. But we can help people, we can change our own state, and we can help other people change their state. And there is also a story, Dhananjani, the tax inspector, he was near the end of his life, and he was in the hell realms. He was in a terrible state. He had all these misgivings. He had been a practitioner, and then he got involved in things, and he was unscrupulous in his work, and he was really ill, and Sariputra guided him. During this crucial period before his death, he guided him and he reminded him of his practice of the Brahmaviharas and the Noble Eightfold Path, and he actually guided him through conversation with him from lower states to a higher realm. And apparently, as it says, the story goes, he had a happy rebirth. Yeah. So give people a Dharma discourse or talk about something that they know about that you can connect with. Yeah. And I'm coming to near the end. So, as a chaplain, there's something. This is not. I thought about reading this to you and asking you if this was Dharma. I will, but I'll tell you. Actually, it's actually from the NHS for Scotland 2009 paper on chaplaincy. But I could have said it's from the Bodhisattva Ideal. I think. I need to recheck it, but for me, I read this in the big document, and this what is it that we're offering as a chaplain, or in Dharmic terms, a spiritual friend to those who in need? That care which recognises and responds to the needs of the human spirit when faced with trauma, ill health, or sadness, and can include the need for meaning, for self-worth, to express oneself, for faith support, perhaps for rites of prayer or sacrament, or simply for a sensitive listener. Spiritual care begins with encouraging human contact and compassionate relationship, and moves in whatever direction need requires. Spiritual care begins with encouraging human contact and compassionate relationship and moves in whatever direction need requires. It does it for me. That means a lot, that I can live in the world to offer that to each other. Yeah. So this, not from the Bodhisattva Ideal, but from the NHS for Scotland, Education for Scotland. But this is, you might recognise a verse from this. This is one of the dharmic relationship to that text, to that education quote that I relate to, and it's from the Avatamsaka Sutra, and it's Samantabhadra's vow, his 9th vow. He says, "I will accord with and take care of all these many kinds of beings, providing all manner of services and offerings for them. I will treat them with the same respect I show my own parents, teachers, elders, arahants, and even the Buddhas. I will serve them all equally without difference. I will be a good physician for the sick and suffering. I will lead those who have lost their way to the right road. I will be a bright light for those in the dark night and cause the poor and destitute to uncover hidden treasures." The Bodhisattva impartially benefits all living beings in this manner. So, may you see some of what you do in the world of being born, being sick, getting old, hopefully, and dying, of what you do as a Dharma practitioner. Create the conditions to practice. I'm going to give you a little handout at the end. The Moggallila is at the end, on the Brahma Viharas, and it's a reading from, it's a handout that I found on the chaplaincy website of Joan Halifax Roshi, who runs the Upaya Zen Centre in America, and she's got there's a lot of training goes on there for Buddhist healthcare chaplains. Yeah, so the point now is to practice the teachings while we're alive. And Mary Oliver, there's a quote in that strikes me. You don't want to have merely visited this life. Be a bride married to amazement. You don't want to merely have just visited this life. So live the life you love. Live the Dharma. Practice the Brahma Viharas in sickness and in health. Be a friend to yourself, to others, boundlessly. And before I finish, I'm going to, again, a final reading. Intimacy, I didn't mention intimacy. Become intimate with yourself. Get to know yourself, yeah. And that intimacy with oneself has an effect on the way that we can relate to one another. I love, the sense of exploring intimacy. Know your darkness. And you'll be able to be present with another when they're experiencing darkness. And this is about dying. And at the end of the passage that I'm going to read, it talks about Amida Buddha and the importance of the afterlife. And basically for me, Amida is like Amitabha. And you don't necessarily have to take that literally if that doesn't work for you, but just translate it into practice now. Set your goal, use each day and night to achieve it. So it's called, finally, I hope that I've covered a response to the 4 sights and shown how I, hopefully, and maybe you, can live what we love by following the teachings from the Dharma. And the Dharma will express itself in its own way through you. You don't have to be like him or her or the next person. Be yourself, be authentic. That's in the White Lotus Sutra. The cloud rains down on these flowers, and they all have their own shape and size and smell and colour. Be that. Be your own, bodhisattva. And I want to dedicate the talk to people like Izzy's dad who are dying, and the families that are with them, the people around, and all beings who are suffering. So this is White Ashes from Renyo's letters. White Ashes. When I deeply contemplate the transient nature of human life, I realise that from beginning to end, life is impermanent, like an illusion. We have not yet heard of anyone who lived 10,000 years. How fleeting is a lifetime? Who in this world today can maintain a human form for even 100 years? There is no knowing whether I will die first or others, whether death will occur today or tomorrow. We depart one after the other more quickly than the dewdrops on the roots or the tips of the blades of grasses. So it is said. Hence, we may have radiant faces in the morning, but by evening we may turn into white ashes. Once the winds of impermanence have blown, our eyes are instantly closed and our breath stops forever. Then our radiant face changes in colour, and the attractive countenance like peach and plum blossoms is lost. Family and relatives will gather and grieve, but all to no avail. Since there is nothing else that can be done, they carry the deceased out to the fields, and then what is left after the body has been cremated and has turned into the midnight smoke is just white ashes. Words fail to describe the sadness of it all. Thus, the ephemeral nature of human existence is such that death comes to young and old alike without discrimination. So, we should all quickly take to heart the matter of greatest importance of the afterlife and entrust ourselves deeply to Amida Buddha and recite the Nimbutsu, humbly and respectfully.
We hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. Please help us keep this free. Make a contribution at freebuddhistaudio.com/donate. And thank you.